Good morning, everybody. My name is Elisa Bortolozzo, and I'm working in Lamborghini since 2011 in the show department. I'm now responsible for HR strategy and system with previous experience in development, recruiting, and personal management. Welcome in this session for Fit for the Future, which skills for the tech evolution for automobile Lamborghini. I'm ready to introduce myself, so go forward in our company. Our history. Automobili Lamborghini was founded in 1963 by Ferruccio Lamborghini with the aim, the dream to create something special, something unique, something that could make the difference for the moment in which was done and for the future. What fil rouge for the whole story of Lamborghini is a tradition of innovation. The aim of our founder, but the aim of the company itself also now is to be trendsetter. So to create always something new, to be really also uncompromising and create something new for the future. You can see now some models that make our history particular, and each of them was a revolution in terms of innovation, in terms of materials, in terms of something new for the moment in which was built. Now we are here at Sant'Agata, near Bologna, near Modena, but we are present worldwide with more than 151 markets, and our presence is divided in the three main continents, so America and MEA and APAC, in order to spread and to be present in the different markets. Facts and figure of the Automobili Lamborghini. Last year we sold more than 7,000 cars with a revenue of more than 1,000 million euro, and now we are 1,779 employee. Consider that these numbers are doubled, and not only doubled in the last 10 years, also thanks also to the introduction of our third model, the Super SUV. That allowed us to bring the company to a new dimension. To be able to live and to grow even more and more in this new invention, we as human capital and organization department have built up a human capital strategy. Our main aim is to be human-centric and purpose-driven. So to have our people, our employees at the core, at the center of our initiative, of our strategy, and this with different main pillars. The attention to the leadership attitudes. We believe strongly that our leader have to be the role model for the entire company, and so we invest in order to grow in terms of leadership, entrepreneurship, and empowerment of the team. At the same time, we are proud of be part of Lamborghini, and so we hope that all the people that works for us feel engaged for Lamborghini. The engagement and the well-being are very important pillars for us, and we constantly renew also our strategy in this sense to allow and let people have a right work-life balance, and our last initiative in this sense is a well-being initiative that cover the three main pillar, body, mind, and purpose, in order to support our employee with different initiative in this sense. At the same time, we are also convinced that we need to update our way of work with new trends, with new needs coming from new generation, and also new mega trends of the society, of the environment. This is the reason why we are investing more and more in a digital ecosystem, work ecosystem. This to make easier, more smartest processes and activities that can be done in this way, but at the same time keeping in mind that the human part needs to be cultivated, needs to be cared with the other initiatives. So this is why you can see World Digital ecosystem to match the two dimension and the new dimension that are coming to our mind and to our business. In this frame, we have also in mind also the corporate social responsibility. So our responsibility for the society, but for the territory we live in. In this sense, we pay high attention to the impact automobile Lamborghini has in the environment. We are CO2 neutral. We have many initiatives in order to care about the environment. But we are also very proud to be part and to have many partnership with the local institution, school, university, in order to also give our contribution to a constant link between company, school, education system, and competencies that grow out in the territory. Competencies that are changing, that are growing, and competencies that the colleagues will also see more in detail in the further part of this talent talk to go deeper in the new trends. To give you a short idea of what Automobile Lamborghini has done, what is doing, and what will continue do in order to be always human-centric and updated to new trends. Just a short video that presents you the Manifattura Lamborghini.
The world has entered the fourth industrial revolution. A revolution that brings the automation of production processes and collaborative robots. But we have already seen far more. Imagining a future where innovative technologies and human talent are as one. A future where latest generation collaborative robots work alongside line operators, where production systems are interconnected and monitored in real time by all the staff, where human work is not replaced but assisted by machines. This is why we've set up a groundbreaking industry, creating value for the territory. doubling our factory size while remaining CO2 neutral. Lamborghini introduces the new Manifattura Lamborghini, the first Industry 4.0 able to raise the quality of Italian craftsmanship is no longer impossible, since we made it possible.
I now hand over to Davide.
Good morning, everyone. It's Davide Bizzarri from Lamborghini. I'm a head of powertrain for Lamborghini. I just put my presentation on. I joined Lamborghini in 2019. My former experience has been I worked in other OEMs. First of all, I grew up in the Motor Rally, and I started my journey in Ferrari, where I covered different roles within the powertrain group. After that, I moved to McLaren Automotive, where I have a quite long stint, and I developed all the vehicle for McLaren Automotive as in charge of the powertrain and the software for all the vehicle. Currently, I'm in Lamborghini from 2019, developing all the new era of supercar and electrification and the wider range of vehicles. Of course, this is quite an interesting challenge, and what I'd like to present you now are all the challenges and what we are facing. I think engineers get excited when there are new challenging and new things to do, and of course that is the right time for all those new challenges. First of all, the biggest challenge in our world is the time to market. The time to market is extremely fast. Usually, to develop a vehicle and a full powertrain, it usually takes around 4 years. So that is an extremely fast time to market. That is not standard for OEM. Of course, in our vehicle, the performance is another key attribute. And the performance is not only about horsepower, because that is the first thing that usually people think, but it's also about power to weight ratio. That is another key indicator of the performance of the vehicle. But of course, on top of that, we have also to preserve the attribute of the vehicle. That means as well the drivability and the fact that a super sport car has to give the customer emotion. Of course, we can discard another important topic, that is the new legislation requirement. The new legislation are getting tougher and tougher, and that means that to be able to deliver what is mandatory for law. So there is not really discount for a small volume manufacturer, and that is another interesting challenge. Of course, we have also to preserve that what we produce are luxury vehicle, and there are things that the customer buy to get to distinguish himself from the other people, and we have to keep that in the soul of our vehicle. Of course, in the current world, we are facing new challenges related to connectivity. So the vehicle is connected to the network, and it's important for the customer to share also their experience of what they are doing with the vehicle and so on. So of course, this is another important part of the experience, but the connectivity is a way to share experience, because I think you can consider all the YouTubers around the world that are sharing experience with supercar, but it's also a way to get information and to connect the vehicle. But this opens another challenge, for example, the cybersecurity. So we need to keep the vehicle bulletproof in terms of cybersecurity. Of course, another important point is the gradual shift to electrification, and I think I will discuss a little bit more about this topic. Shifting to electrification means no compromise, in any case, for our brand about what is our DNA. This means try to preserve, to create, what does it mean, the sportiveness 2.0, to be able to look the future and to keep the DNA of the brand. Of course, another topic that is getting really important is the ADAS. So, of course, all the tool and device that we need to keep to help the driver in the driving experience, maybe for safety. For example, think about the automatic braking. But on the other hand, we have also to add features that are specially tailored for our vehicle, like, for example, things to enhance the driving style or the driving skill of the driver. So the ADAS become a little bit more for a super sport brand. And of course, I'd like to spend a few words about which are the challenges for the powertrain, and especially looking in the future. I'd like to start with a sentence, and a lot of people think that the future is electric. Future is electric is something that is a simple answer to a complex problem. And there are never simple answers to complex problems. And I prefer to quote Professor Peter Kelly-Senecal from the University of Wisconsin, that he says, the future is not electric, the future is eclectic. That means that we have to develop different technology to answer a complex problem, and based on the boundary condition where we operate, to find different solutions. And that is what Lamborghini is doing with the look in the future in terms of innovation. So we are considering hybridization for sure the way forward, and this is for sure a way forward, looking enhancing the pleasure of driving the vehicle, but also be able to pass the new emission limit, and especially to looking about Euro 7, but also being able to reduce significantly our CO2. And this is the statement that is our core Tauri strategy. From 2022, all our product range will be hybrid. And this is for sure an area of development of our business. As I said before, the future is eclectic, so we should master not only hybridization, internal combustion engine, transmission, but for us, we already mentioned there will be a fourth model, and that will be probably a model with BEV. So that means also to be able to do a new step in the evolution of our brand, moving toward the electrification. But as we said, we should master all the technology, not thinking only to a single one, but also at the full portfolio of technology, and be able to apply them, also looking how the world will change. I think currently, as I mentioned before, the future is eclectic also because there is sometimes misconception, like that, for example, that BEV vehicles are zero CO2. Yes, they are zero CO2 where they are, but there are other CO2 penalty that we have to put on the plate of the balance that are related, for example, the cradle to gate. So how much energy CO2 we need to produce the battery and so on, and as well how we produce energy to charge the battery. That means to be able to think in a holistic way to the problem. We don't look only the legislation, we have an holistic approach to the CO2. And that is our statements. Our statement is we would like to reduce of 50% the CO2 emission since from 2025 of our vehicle. So that is quite a strong statement. That means to develop new technology. But on the other way, I think is extremely important to have an holistic approach to the CO2. That means the Lamborghini is also looking the CO2 produced by our infrastructure. So we look at our Lamborghini in 2015 has been the first carbon neutral company in the world certified by DNV. That means that we are looking, of course, we have photovoltaic plants. We look at the certification of our building. We have a 3 generation in-house. So we are looking and we are absolutely not thinking only to what is legislation say, but also looking to an holistic approach and plan for CO2 reduction. Just talking about challenges, I'd like to talk about engine emission, because here we are talking about talent and skills that we will need in the future. Our brand is still linked with the internal combustion engine, and there is really strong bonding between us and the internal combustion engine. But what I'd like to show is that from those are federal tier 3 emissions, so from 20 model year 19 until model year 25, as you can see, the emission, those are legislative limits. So we have produced and we are producing engines that are reduced nearly 70%. The pollutant, especially considering NMOC plus NOx that are some of the key pollutants in, that are regulated by legislation. So we already spoke about electrification, we spoke about battery cells, but as well, we are still working a lot developing internal combustion engine and make them better, more powerful, less weight, but as well, we have also to make them cleaner. And that is for sure an important statement in all this journey. On the other hand, I'd like also to mention another challenge that is related to the software complexity. Here we took 3 examples. Of course, the software is something that has a huge importance in the development of a supercar for several reasons. The software is what allowed the hardware to achieve its target in terms of emission, drivability, and of course, now the software is getting with time more and more complicated, mainly for new standard. I would like to mention what is called ISO 26262. That is a standard that is everyone has to achieve those standards and is used mainly for functional safety. We should guarantee, imagine we talk about electrification, so to put together an internal combustion engine with other electric engines means being able to control them in all the circumstances and be able also to be in control and don't create any hazard in every condition. And that means to develop a complex system also to monitor what the system is doing and that don't create any possible harmful situation. And that means exactly that has created a massive challenge on the software. We already spoke about or mentioned cybersecurity. And what I'd like to show here, you can see that starting from the Murcielago, that is quite an iconic car that was probably built with 13 ECU, and there was around 25, less than 0.25 megabyte of software in the electronic control unit. We have moved to the Aventador, but the unit became 50, and the software is now 1.15 megabyte. And in the future, due to the requirement to control hybrid emission and golden rule are some special rules that the VW Group has developed, especially to guarantee compliance with the emission. We are nearly at 4 megabytes of software for each ECU, and we have around 70 ECU and we have around 70 ECU. So that means for sure a massive investment in terms of software. So software is another important part of the challenge we are facing, because we have to keep it developing. This has become one part of the DNA of our vehicle, but of course it's a massive challenge. So we need to be able to specify software, to code some of those software, and being able also to go in the vehicle and to do the calibration to achieve this all the requirements we said before. So it's becoming like a multifactorial optimization. I think there is another competence and talent that we have to develop, that is mainly the possibility to forecast in advance and to do as much as we can in the virtual world. It is what is called the computer-aided engineering. Of course, it's such a complex vehicle, and we have a lot of different requirements altogether. And for sure, what we have to do is to be able to use all those competencies and be able to don't discover issue when we are at the end of the process. And that is for sure is something that we have to use and start to work on that. For sure, I think the design of is not anymore designing hardware and designing a software, and those two are not joined together. That means developing. We have to develop software and hardware together and and thinking software and hardware at the same time. So we should move into a system approach. That means to develop hardware, thinking what is going to be the software that has to control it, and balance the complexity of the hardware versus the complexity of the software, and the other way around. Of course, what is really helpful for that is what is called the computer-aided engineering, so the possibility to spot issues in the early phase, so have a model of all the components, model of the battery, cooling system, modelization of the internal combustion engine, join those models together and be able to spot as much as possible issue in the phase during the virtual phase, before we start to commit any hardware or so on, because otherwise the time to market will be compromised. But otherwise, the time to market could be compromised, or at the end we can have issue with the not able to achieve, for example, emission requirement, and not able to sell the vehicle. Of course, that has also another positive effect, that is the one to reduce the cost of the program. And for sure, those other skills mainly related to computer-aided engineering that we should develop and have the full control of those skills in-house. So I think in a nutshell, we talk about competence related to electrification, for sure being able to simulate in a virtual environment most of our components, and for sure the software and whatever is related to the software is to the electronic controller of the different hardware. But what is even more important is thinking to a system engineering approach, where we look not the individual component and the hardware, but we look together hardware and software to reduce complexity. I'd like now to hand over to Mr. Pieraccini, that will talk about some of those skills that we will need for the tech revolution.
Hi to all. Let me share my video so that you can see what I prepared for you. I guess you can see it. Okay, right now. So, my name is Gabriele Pieraccini. I have a master's degree in electronic with the focus on controls, and I started my career around more than 20 years ago, let's say. I didn't know at the beginning what I wanted to do, but we will come later on when I talk about some suggestions that I would like to give you. But mainly I was on the automotive path, let's say. I was attracted by making a foreign experience. That's why basically nearly after the university, I just left and went to Germany, where I spent in total 12 years of my life. And then I was back in between to Italy, at Ferrari in the Formula One. In Germany, I was at Bosch Engineering and then Robert Bosch. And then I went back to Germany before moving to the United States, why I was attracted also from a company right there that is Apple. So now, since January 2021, this year, I'm at Lamborghini, and I'm in a position called Chief Technical Engineer for the model line Aventador. Now, what would I like to talk to you? Since assuming you are in a similar position I was at your age by doing the university or just after I finished the university, for me, one question was also before starting the university, what should I study? Or when I was at the university, what skills should I have? Or where do I have to put my focus on? So let's talk a little bit about that. And I will now narrow down the lens to the automotive field, assuming, since you are here, that you are attracted to automotive. So I've been asked to talk to you about the skills needed for the future. And first, I thought maybe it's important to let's understand a little bit how the future looks like, at least in automotive. There are some called megatrends, or there are some main technological trends, which are summarized here, as you see, in automated, electrified, and connected. What is automated? Automated means there's a huge push, why there's a huge business possibilities in terms of dollars on the autonomous driving. Electrified has you already had some deep dive from Davide. And then there is connected. So the connected means the vehicle is online, connected to the rest of the world. And automated, as I said, you don't need to drive the car yourself if you want, but you can do something else in the car. What does this mean? There's a big important thing to be considered. It's the first time in the history for the automotive that this or such big mega trends are coming all together. And with all together, I mean within 5 to 10 years time frame, which is a very short time frame for automotive development. And these three in particular will shift the differentiation from what is called the hardware. Here I don't mean hardware in terms of chips, silicon. I mean the powertrain, like chassis, where several customers, several OEMs have based their differentiations on, and they move to software. If you consider that the car is moving by itself, for example, or is connected, there are a lot of things that you can do differently, and you can add onto the car. So the differentiation in the future has this shift, and this has an implication, obviously, in the skill that you need. And I will come to these skills in a couple of slides. What are the main challenges for this? Basically, having car driving around by themselves, it means there's quite a bit of intelligence on the car itself. So there's a huge increase in complexity. And this technological complexity bring together also an increased complexity on the organizational side that has to deal with this increased complexity, but also with the different pace in terms of how quick the development moves forward. So let's now see what it means, for example, with this shift. Why is important to understand this shift? What are the perspectives? Let's now focus on some extreme scenarios. These are scenarios. It doesn't mean it's the truth, but let's consider this. On the left side, you have like low volume production vehicles, like could be Lamborghini. On the other side, you have the high volume production, which could be the main OEMs around the world. What are the main differences of what you could do with the car? In low volume production cars like Lamborghini, maybe you want still to keep, or you want to enhance, maybe in the future even more, the fun to drive. In a high volume production car, if you assume in some years, in few years, it will drive around autonomously, maybe the fun moves from driving the car to what you can do inside the car, but what in the fun of being moving around without having to think about ingestion, traffic jam, or things like that. And then in sport cars like Lamborghini, you want to have fun with the car. So you want still to enjoy handling, holding in your hands the steering wheel, pushing down or the gas pedal or brakes and turning and having fun. That's the wheel screaming. If you think about, again, an autonomously connected car, maybe you want to have fun in the car. And the key word here is like the vision of some OEM is like moving your living room from home to the car. You have comfort gets much more important with the car that is driving around, because you want to maybe work in the car, or you want to watch TV, or you want basically to have a nice talk with some friends. Going back to sport cars, you still want to keep the driving experience. The driving experience is in this case, with this kind of product, the product experience. So you don't want to lose that. On the other side, in the transportation, is more a transportation. The car is going around by itself. And again, in the sport cars, you want to own that car. There's on the other side, maybe not. Maybe it's just more a shared business. This is still a question mark where the trend is going or the mainstream is going, but yeah, these are all possibilities. Now, I was going quick a little bit on this topic because I want to spend the rest of the chat on skills that you might need in this world, in this future world. Let's start with the hard skills. Here there are just some of these. As you see in the title, there is increasingly relevant hard skills. Doesn't mean these are all skills that you need, but if we limit the focus on automated, electrified, and connected, these are quite a few skills that you might be interested in on mastering. For example, automated driving cars, autonomous driving cars. You probably need C knowledge if you want to be a developer, obviously, or because with autonomous driving car, the two of the topic that also Davide was naming, like functional safety and cybersecurity, are very important. In terms of functional safety, there are some requirements that come on the hardware itself and on the software, which requires to be able to produce code that does exactly what you mean, that you can control, that you can validate. And C is a very good candidate. There is also C++, but C++ has some degree of freedom that might be tricky in terms of assuring a very high software integrity. So if you use C++, there will be some restrictions on what you can do with C++. MATLAB Simul is a very good environment because, especially if you need to design controls, there is already a big bunch of people around the world that or customer or OEM that are using MATLAB Simul, and then the autocode generation for getting at the end to C code that is then linked and compiled. On the UI interface, there are obviously all the Apple world or Mac world, which is Swift, is the language to deal with. On the robotic engineer side, the main control, I mean, the automotive world is still 95% based on PID. Maybe some of you knows them, linear or non-linear PID, but it was for several reasons. But now there is a more model-based design in terms of control, and then the keywords in this sense are RQR, RQG, linear, non-linear, MPC, which is the model predictive control. And these are mainly used for vehicle motion. Then electrical engineer is very important. Here, there are some roles that are missing, and where also the whole European country, the so-called old continent, is a little bit struggling with, and are the role of software architect or software programmer, because as I said, the automotive industry was more hardware based, so also the university were focusing on preparing people for this kind of world. And now there is the shift on towards software and EE architecture. So software architecture architects or EE architects, they will have always more in the future a relevant role. And why architect? Because as Davide said, that it's very important to have a system view or a system-centric development process, where starting from the system, you derive the requirements to the subsystem. Otherwise, you get something that is just like a puzzle of pieces, but they don't fit really harmoniously together. Then, of course, there is machine learning, artificial intelligence. Here, we can spend hours just talking about that, but the keywords here are perception. If you have a car running around, the car needs to see where it's going. There is localization, there is global positioning, there is planning to understand, do I have to go right or left, associated with reasoning. There's a lot of sensor fusion, there is camera, there is LiDAR, there is sonar, and so on. And then there are some tools like TensorFlow and BigML that are practical tools that you might want to learn in order to get a sense of what these things might mean. And then, as I said, there is the whole world of functional safety and cybersecurity. What are the big difference between functional safety and cybersecurity? Functional safety is to avoid that the failure in your EE system, be careful, functional safety applies only to EE system, not to mechanical parts. You want to avoid that the failure can cause an harm, and is a failure of stack that can generate inside your system. So something, a failure inside, can harm something around. The cybersecurity is the opposite, is to avoid that your system is harmed or affected by something coming from outside. So there are different approaches, and you have to deal in these things in different way. Now let's talk about soft skills, which are very important and don't underestimate these, because they are really a conditio sine qua non, or as you would say as engineering guys, is a necessary but not sufficient condition, but is a necessary one. The world is changing, automotive world is changing. It's over with the time of organization that are driven by authority or hierarchically, or there is the manager that tells to the people what they have to do and they just do it. It doesn't work, or it will not work anymore. We are speaking about collaborative organization, which means teamwork is a very big word. Is something that everybody speak about teamwork, but believe me, this kind of complexity that I was talking before cannot be handled by a single people, by a few bunch of people. You really need teams, heterogeneous team, diversity teams that work together in order to achieve this very complex results. Influence and inclusion is very important because, as I said, it's not the boss tell you what you have to do, and it's not that you can escalate to your boss every time you have a problem. So you need to be able to influence, leading by example, or influence your colleagues. If you have a problem, you talk to the people. You have to convince them that what you want to do is the right thing to do. If you are able to do that, you will see that they will do it and they will follow you. In this way, you generate, or you will be seen automatically as a leader. I'm not speaking here about all the standard soft skills like communication or creativity and so on. I just want to focus on these few here that I think are very important. As I said, I was 4 years in the United States, in Silicon Valley, and there it was really difficult for me at the beginning. Because there is really this multi-culti environment, so there are people from all around the world, so there's a lot of diversity. But at the end, I really was able to see and appreciate what kind of difference they can make. Don't believe that just one single culture, one single group of people can fix these problems of automated, rectified, and connected. You really need diversity, and you need to be able first to understand yourself. That's why self-awareness, to manage your emotion, because what different culture can read through your emotion can be different depending on their culture. So you have to manage them, and you need to have a lot of empathy. Otherwise, is really difficult to deal and to handle people that thinks and are formed, and they have thought patterns that can be different from yours. You need a lot of understanding. And then everybody speak about agile, but sometimes there is the bias that agile doesn't work in automotive, in the automotive world. That's not true. Agile can work, but first is a mindset issue. So you need to be open to this, you need the right tool to this, and you need the right methodology. And what I would also suggest you is be with adaptability here. You need, if you want to master this kind of environments, very fast changing environment, you need to be able to adapt yourself to different situations, which is not easy and needs to be trained. But trained on the field is not something you can read. So, and then the complexity, as I said before, you need to think starting from the system. You need to be a big picture guy, at least to understand the big picture before you just drop down or deep dive into the details. And it's really, I was really amazed to see how many engineers, they get lost into the details without understanding first the big picture. So that's why I put here important things first. Focus on what is really important, and then deep dive into the details. So, and now, just to conclude, why I was selecting this text from Steve Jobs, from a speech that I would suggest you to look in Google and YouTube. Just Google 2005 Stanford Steve Jobs commencement address, and you will get it. It's very interesting. And why I selected this one, because as is written here, work will be a big part of your life, and if you don't do something that you like, you will never be able to do something great, and also the time will seems very long for you. So I'm saying this also because at the beginning, when I was at the university, or even after that, also for me it was not clear what I loved, what I would love to do. So I had to try, had to experiment. So my message, my suggestion to you, like if I was a friend of you, is just try, and if you don't find, or if you're not convinced of what you're doing, try something else. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking, as Steve Jobs was saying. And now I think I'm done with my part.
I think there are a few questions that I see in the comments. The first one is about Ruggero. Thanks for the presentation. Which studies I have to do for work in the design team? Of course, design team. Of course, if we are talking about engineering design, so for example, designing components, for sure an engineering background will help. Of course, we discuss a lot about software, and of course, if we're talking about software design, we are talking about for sure electronic or informatic background. We will help a lot on that. If we talk about car designers or style, I think, but that is my personal point of view, and we have a few examples, even Lamborghini, even an engineering background will help, because everything in a vehicle should have a purpose. So also the style of the vehicle should have, on top of the beauty, should have a meaning, a reason to be there. So for sure, for me, also an engineering background will help on that. I don't know if my colleague would like to add something else about that.
I completely agree. Also, because as also Gabriela said before, we need to have a more wider view on processes and things. So put together design style and also more technical parts always can help. And this allow me also to answer another question. I see during the recruitment process the most important skills, but we have already mentioned many times the two side of the aspects, so both technical specific skills, but also soft skills and the ability to look and to see at the environment and at the context you will face. That is also different from company to company. So this.
Can I also add something on this question?
For sure.
I want to share my experience, hard or soft skills. So a person is made by both, so you need both. But what is more important? In my experience, it was different depending as where I was. In Europe, I was doing some interviews in like in Ferrari or Bosch Engineer or Bosch and so on. They were more focused on soft skill. I never had an interview actually where they were asking me about doing some exercise, solving some problems, technical problems. On the other side, at Apple, it was the opposite. They were the interviews were with several people and were very technical. But at the end, and when I went there, and I was a manager myself, and I had to do interviews, I've seen that the hard skills is what are the enabler to get you there, because they're looking for skilled people. But there was a flag, like in the interview process. If you don't show a culture match or team match, if they have the feeling, if you have the feeling that you are not a team player, there's no way they will hire you. So both are important, and depends where the company put the focus on.
I have the similar. I underestimate I always, because I come from an engineering background, I always thought that our skills are mandatory. For sure they are. But I underestimate for a while the importance of the soft skill, because we work, as you said, the complexity is becoming so big that the teamwork is fundamental. If we don't work as a team, if we are not able to communicate what we are doing and how we interact and be able to split responsibility and job, that for sure, in the complexity we showed before, that fall apart. A single person, really good, is not able to do all that job, but a really motivated team can do that job. And of course, I thought, that, hard skill are, we are hiring people to do a job, but by the way, there are a few open positions in my area that are on our website. So a little bit of advertisement. And I think we should don't underestimate and invite, the people that are listening, to think also about soft skill, considering that hard skill for me are mandatory. I saw a couple of technical question about one is about the Terzo Millennium, that has been, of course, is a concept car, but we are actively working on, I showed the fourth model, and the fourth model, is starting from that experience. Of course, the Terzo Millennium was quite iconic and disruptive in terms of design and a lot of area, and we are starting from there to develop the future. Of course, full electric vehicles, they have a lot of challenges related to the power density of the battery. And we mentioned several times the weight to power ratio. That is fundamental, because we would like to have a car that is not only high performing, but also it should be fast also on the track, not only in the straight line acceleration. So that is for sure something we take the input and the beginning of the Terzo Millennium, and we are taking forward to this fourth model. The other technical question is about, we said that every model of Lamborghini is revolutionary. In what way Lamborghini Urus is revolutionary? I think maybe it's a provocation, that question, but of course the Urus is a car that we build here in Lamborghini. There is a strong link and bonding with the platform, because of course we are part of the VW group. But the Lamborghini Urus, I think the revolution of the Lamborghini Urus, and driving also the vehicle, where I found the biggest difference from the other brother is the fact that we imprinted in the car the Lamborghini DNA in terms of sound, in terms of handling, in terms of drivability, that is getting closer to the other Lamborghini than the other cars that are brother of this.
Yeah, probably this is one of the main differences, the driving experience. I would love to tell you, you have to try to see the difference, but it's not so easy to try an Urus. But if you try Urus compared to the other SUV on the market, you will see that is the handling, as David said, is one of the main difference. Yeah.
I think there was a last question. Yeah, please.
Yeah.
No, please.
One is more for you, for HR, I would say. Internship or any stage to do inside.
Yeah, in this case, as Davide also already said, you can refer to our career website for all the open position, both for permanent and for internship opportunities. So you can have a look and see if there is any open position that fit your skills and your aspiration for the future.
I think there is nothing more. I'd like to thank the people and my colleague for this experience, and I wish you a great afternoon.
You too. Yeah.
You too. And thank you for your participation.
Welcome.